Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and we really appreciate everything that Caroline and Lauren and everyone else has done for us here at the Gold Coast Film Festival. We're so excited. 3 sold-out shows. It's amazing. We have a lot of people here in the audience that are part of the film, and I just wanted to bring a couple of people up and recognize them. We have, of course, Denis McNamara, everyone. I mean, this guy is amazing. Legend.
Oh, I have a seat. Something I'm not used to, a microphone, right? Did you enjoy it? It's all from Ellen. She found me, 7 years ago? And she had this idea for a movie about her favorite radio station that disappeared. And the rest, we're honored to be here with Gold Coast today. We were a hit at Tribeca, in the Tribeca Film Festival in the spring. And as you can see, we have reunited with so many of the people that made the music. And I know many of you were in the film, and many of you were our listeners, and thank you. Because really, the listeners carried us through some of the roughest times we went through. And somebody said to me, someone from the air staff had said after they'd seen the movie the first time, well, you didn't really capture how much we suffered. And I said that to my son, and he said, oh my God, all you had to do was look at Donna's face in that control room. She's so beautiful and so sad, and she captured all of the things you must have gone through. So thank you, Donna.
Donna, why don't you come up here? Everyone, Donna. We have Larry the Duck here.
Larry the Duck.
The Mighty Maximizer. Max,
all right, the Mighty Maximizer.
I want to recognize a few other people here in the audience that played a really big part in the film. We have Michael Pagnotta. Is he still here? Michael? We have Seymour Stein is here.
There he is. Hey, the chairman. Thank you, Seymour.
Lisa Rude, are you still here, Lisa?
Lisa Rude, yes.
Eppy is here.
Where's Michael Epstein? Happy birthday, Eppy.
Happy birthday, Eppy. My sound editor's here. Fred Helm, where are you, Fred?
All right, Fred. Good man.
May Pang is in the back, everyone. May Pang. Steve North and Carol Silva were here before. There they are, Carol Silva and Steve North.
The news crew.
The news team of LIR. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but okay, so we're going to open it up for some questions. So you probably want to ask these people or me, but they're your stars, so here you go. Questions?
Actually, I want to ask a question. So you were obviously a super fan growing up in Plainview, Long Island. Yes, Plainview. Anyone from Plainview? Okay. Yep, I'm from Plainview, so very, very proud of that coincidence. How did you go from super fan to movie maker? That you decided to make this film.
I have no idea. My entire family is in the entertainment industry, and I originally asked my brother to do it because he's a screenwriter and he is a Broadway show person, created Broadway shows and whatnot, and I said, this would be a really good, fun show or a film. It's got a really interesting story. And he was like, I'm too busy. You do it. And I said, I don't know how to do this because I've never made a film before. I produce things, but I've never directed or created a film. And I was so inspired to do this, I actually went to UCLA, I took classes, and I just did everything hands-on, and I did all my research, and I contacted Dennis and said, we're going to make this movie about WLIR, and it just took off, and 7 years later, we made a movie. So there you go. A lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears.
Was it difficult to get the rights for the music?
So it wasn't as bad as I thought. We hired a really, really good team that cleared the music for us, that helped us. And some of the things we were able to use as fair use. But yeah, we cleared all of the music in this film. Everything is cleared, which took us a while, but we're really, really proud of that. That was a big undertaking, so.
I was going to say an awful lot of people helped us in the clearance process. And again, Seymour's here. Seymour was on the phone calling people for us.
Very grateful to Seymour. Thank you.
All of the major record labels went out of their way to help us, which
I'm
was
guessing
very nice.
there's probably a lot of music executives out there that grew up on WLIR.
That wasn't
were probably so thrilled that you were doing this project and sorry they didn't think of it first.
Well, none of them are so thrilled enough to let you have the music for free. Let me put it to you that way.
So, do you know the farthest away someone was able to get the signal for the radio station?
And Mike Guadagni's not here, right? He was our chief engineer and genius technician. No, because we had a 3,000 watt signal, and a lot of it's based on transmission versus height of your antenna. We had an accident with the tower when we were in a bad business situation just before we changed the format. It was one of the reasons we did. And during that time, the FCC screwed up and knocked our tower down, or allowed our tower to be knocked down. That was a mistake. That was not done intentionally. But what happened was, thanks to Mike and Elton and the people involved, they moved it. They moved it to what were those apartments called? Anyway, the highest point in Queens, North Shore Towers. So and to this day, the 92.7 stick is still up there. So at that point in time, we knew we could reach New Jersey. We knew we could reach Southern Connecticut. And because there's something called skip that happens, when there's atmospheric conditions or when it's very humid out, sometimes we'd skip to other states. People would hear us in Delaware or Canada. That's not an uncommon thing with radio. But for the most part, we covered Westchester, Connecticut, parts of Jersey, all of the city, but it depended what day of the week it was.
Do all the DJs, do you each have a favorite story of like a super fan story? Someone maybe who stalked you or waited outside and...
Can I just, I don't have a super fan story, but I did want to say something really quick. Dennis thanked me a few minutes ago, and all I could think of was, no, thank you. Because I was in radio, and I had just lost my job, and I was a club DJ, and I was playing all this music in the clubs, and when LIR switched from all the Southern rock to all the punk and new wave, I thought, if I don't get a job at this radio station, I will die. And I hounded, mercilessly hounded Dennis until he finally gave me a chance. And thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
It was such a wonderful thing to be a part of. And as if you guys are fans, I imagine you are fans of the station that are here, we were just as in love with the station as you guys. It was a passion project for all of us.
I actually started as a fan, like many other people. I lived in Brooklyn, grew up in Brooklyn, down near Brighton Beach, and used to hear the station. I used to, get into my car. I couldn't hear it in the apartment. I did the usual, tin foil on the antennas. Sometimes I got it, but I would go down to my car to drive around because that's the only way I would be able to listen to the station. And I just, a set of circumstances. I got lucky. Worked at a place called Rock America. Ed Steinberg, he's here.
Ed Steinberg, where's Ed Steinberg?
Ed Steinberg.
Oh, right there, hiding.
This is the man who directed the very first Madonna video. He's sitting right over here. Ed Steinberg had a company called Rock America, did a lot of these music videos in clubs, and I worked there. And he was very good friends with Dennis, and he got me a job. He got me an introduction with Dennis, and I started as a volunteer working on the airline, and ultimately I got my shot to do the overnights, and people always ask me, how do you make it in this business? I said, well, I never really took a radio course, but I had to make myself absolutely invaluable. So I would stay night and day and cut tape with razor blades and work. I worked for Larry for a while as his assistant, did the overnights, slept in the air studio at 9 o'clock after After he went off the air, I went to do my job. So this is the type of loyalty and that people who worked there and people who listened and loved the station had, and that made me prouder than ever to be part of it and to be part of this family. And thank you, everybody, for making the station what it was and making us proud.
Larry, how did you get involved in the station?
You know what?
Oh, God.
We can say, technically, he used to deliver drugs to the radio station. Now you better explain that. Your daughter's here.
My daughter Caitlin is here. I worked. No, actually. So I went to St. John's University, and I worked in a pharmacy down the street on Fulton Avenue. It was called Mardell's, and I used to deliver prescriptions in the hellholes of Hempstead, beautiful downtown Hempstead. In fact, I remember 100 Terrace Avenue was behind us, and going into that building delivering prescriptions. You know, the cops would only go in with 2, Lilco 2, the post office 2. They had a little jail in the lobby because it was that bad in the building. And here comes little Larry, with the light bulbs in the ceiling completely burnt out, and I'm just delivering prescriptions, door to door. But that's how I started. As an intern, I said, this place looks very intriguing to me. And going to St. John's, first of all, I just want to congratulate Dennis, Ellen, and Roger for such a great job of pulling this together. And they really deserve a round of applause. Because it's hard to tell the story because there's so many stories and there's so many stories behind the stories. And also the fact that Seymour is here tonight, there is a reason he is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You deserve it, and thank you for being here tonight, Seymour.
Yeah. He helped found the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is that the first time I saw the movie at Tribeca, it was a blur. It was the second time I saw it in the IMAX theater with the surround sound. As soon as New Gold Dream came on, I think my eyes just completely watered, because then it all came back to when we were there. And I thank Dennis for having me as the music director, because there were a number of music directors like Rosie and Ray and Larry
Rosie's
Clement.
here too, right?
Rosie's here tonight. In fact, when Rosie left, I became music director, and we started the record collection with her records from home. I mean, Change, Killing Joke was her personal record that we used on the air. But I do remember there's a story that I never heard until Tribeca, and Dennis told me that the great DJ, the club DJ, Jelly Bean Benitez, wanted me fired. And I didn't know until Dennis told me why.
Oh, well, Seymour, you might remember this one. We did a contest because Studio 54, we were so hot, they revived Studio 54 and turned it into a Dare to Be Different club. And Seymour was nice enough, we did a battle of the bands there, and the prize was an opportunity to have a single released on Sire Records. And we had a variety of judges come, and one night Seymour said Madonna would like to be one of the judges, so we said fine, and we brought her in very nonchalantly. She's a wonderful lady, and she was always very grateful to us at LIR because we played her records early, and she had a boyfriend at that point, and we played some of his records too, Jelly Bean Benitez, who was a big remixer and producer. And for some reason that night, Jelly Bean got it in his head that Madonna was going to leave him for Larry. And we never told Larry. And of course, jealous boyfriend, Scorpio, I don't know, Jelly Bean was Jelly Bean, but Madonna, was just brilliant and everything. And she and Larry were the judges that night. So I never told him the story because I didn't want him to be nervous or think, this guy's going to hit him over the head or something like that. So, and also, if he started something with Madonna, then I would have hell to pay with Seymour and everybody else. So it was just as well you didn't know till Tribeca.
Thank you for that. And also we should know that Seymour signed Madonna in his hospital room after having major heart surgery. That is a great story, and Seymour was on the air with me 5 years ago, and it was just great for him to tell all the stories, because I think every band that First Wave plays on Sirius XM was signed by Seymour. They should just call it the Seymour Stein Channel and be done with it.
Is Julie Price still here?
There she is, Julie. Julie ran all our marketing. She's a marketing genius.
A.K.A. Julie Bacigalupo. And her sister Kathy's here tonight, too.
Kathy worked with the police and a lot of A&M acts, too.
And Rosie, is she still here? Rosie? No? She left? Okay.
Julie.
Yay.
There's Larry again getting in the hot water, right?
Are you crying?
The Madonna thing still throws me, I'll tell you.
Julie, do you want to tell them what you did at the scene?
I did the contests and the promotions, so I was the one that, thought of all the things that I'd like to win, and then I'd put it on the air. Because I just thought that, we all thought the same way about the station. We all loved the station. We were all young kids, and it was always the dream come true to, go and see the band and meet them backstage. And the bands were really helpful in the sense that they would do it, like they would be very nice to the listeners backstage. So.
Julie also ran the airline, so she was the den mother for all those wonderful interns we had.
Yeah.
Not an easy job.
She also oversaw the money that we gave away, 92.7 cents. So we used to have Mindy's husband, Tom, cut the penny,
Yeah.
right?
So you win 70% of a penny.
People, I just won 92.7 cents! I'm going to Jamaica! Queens.
Well, luckily we had that slogan, Dare to be Different, so I could work with that.
Yeah.
I didn't have to give away tons of money because we dared to be different.
Does anyone, we want to take some questions from the audience too. So does anyone have a question? Yes, over here.
Okay, you guys made me almost cry because my childhood, way before I was able to go into a club, 14, Max's Kansas City, big proof for my sister. You guys were amazing. So my question is, how did you all come up with your names, and why did not anybody come to your rescue that had lots of money, like Seymour?
So the question is, how did you come up with all your names? And
I was born with mine.
Donna, you guys all congregate and choose.
I kind of would sit with each announcer and talk to them about it. And eventually, Larry's, I think, John DeBello was the first one that started it, but we were all kidding him because there was a famous bass player named Donald the Duck Dunn. He was at the Blues Brothers, and he was, played with Steve Cropper and those guys. So it was easy because he was Duck Dunn, so he became Larry the Duck. Donna, that was a pretty simple one. That was a dictator's version of Donna.
Oh, no. I was Donna before that. But if you saw my name in the credits, it has a lot of consonants, and there's actually a Z in there. So it just didn't work for radio. And it was a nickname that in a former station, this one guy used to call me Donna all the time. And then one day, I just thought, wow, I'm going to use that on the air. And then all of a sudden, everybody knew who I was. It was like the nickname that finally distinguished me. And it wasn't until years later that I saw him somewhere, and I was like, why did you used to call me Donna? And he goes, oh, because I had a roommate in college whose girlfriend's name was Donna, and she broke up with him, and he used to lie in his bed at night going, Donna. And I don't know how you got your name.
Why would you think Max is not my real name? No, it's not my real name, to be honest. My real name, Dennis felt was too Jewish. So.
I'm not taking that hit. I just thought that a new wave guy named Abe didn't sound right.
But I do remember when he told me finally.
Abe just made me think of Lincoln.
Yeah, right. So when he said, but I am going to be on the air, but you better, you've got to think of something snappier. So I remember calling my brother, who was in college at the time, and said, I'm going to be on LIR. Can you imagine? Oh my God. But I need a name. And he just happened to be a fan and had posters of the movie Mad Max up in his room, in his dorm room. And he just said, Max. I said, sure, why not? I can do a lot with it and, use the Mad Max drop-ins on the show and get smart. And Max just went very far, but thanks for noticing.
Where did
Mighty Maximizer came from Eppy. Eppy used to call me the Mighty Maximizer. And remember those days when they had the Energizer commercial for the batteries? And we did my jingle kind of based on that, the Energizer, that Australian guy. And so my jingle, and Eppy produced it. You're listening to the Mighty Maximizer. Oi. And that was all Eppy. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yep, over there.
That's correct.
Can you just explain a little bit about in what way that happened? Like, what was the actual connection?
That's
just
the
wanna
next. That's the next film.
Just wonder, so the question was, what's the overlap? What was the overlap with LIR and DRE?
The people that were awarded the license approached me and asked me to program it, but it was a very different operation. I had a boss, I had all these people that were telling me what to do. Eventually they gave me much more control, but in the beginning it was a very, very different atmosphere, and basically they wanted the success that LIR had, so they started with me, but it was a very, very different movie.
Another question. In the back there.
So while I was watching, I was thinking about this person who moved away from New York, and that person, this friend of mine who never lived in New York, but loved music and loved work. So I have about a dozen people who I want to see the film. When will the DVD be out?
Okay, so
Ask the director.
So as you noticed, or you may not have noticed, but the name of our film has changed. It's now called New Wave Dare to Be Different. We haven't officially rolled that out yet on social media and to the world, but you were the first to see the new version. And we do have distribution in the US and Canada. I am not legally allowed to announce who has bought our film, but I can assure you that you will see it very soon in early 2018. And after the premiere of the distribution, then we will be allowed to sell our film on Amazon, iTunes, and we will have DVD sales available, and we're also working on a soundtrack deal. A lot of things are happening.
I'd also read somewhere, Ellen, that there were some other projects, like offshoots of the film that maybe, I don't know if you're still considering, but a Broadway show, a book.
We're not doing a Broadway show.
Yet.
That I'll give to my brother. There's no way I'm doing a Broadway show. But I have literally over like 400 hours of footage and hundreds of transcripts in my office that I do want to make into a book, because this took 7 years, because there's so many stories and a lot of untold stories that I couldn't get in the film that I would love to share in a book. So that'll be the next project for this movie, and yeah, so we'll see.
You know, I was going to add one thing, again, as a compliment to Ellen and the team. We historically landed the Dare to Be Different format just before the arrival of the telephone taking over as the most important element in your life, just about. And also, all of the visuals that we take for granted now, it was so difficult to go back and find visuals from LIR, and of course with the station disappearing, so many of the, the memoirs, the collectibles, the archaeological part of the radio station disappeared in time. So I'm astounded at the ability Ellen and her team had at getting what you saw today, because it really was that unique time in history before everything exploded. And, you know, in fact, some of the historians now think that maybe the most important date in media history is sometime around 1993 in terms of the internet and everything else arriving. So when you think about it, we were the last of our kind as pictured in that film. So again, my hat's off, because it was a really difficult task, and I know it. She went through my basement like crazy.
Yeah, I do want to thank all the fans, because, you know, they really contributed a lot of photos and some of the videos. Bob's still here. Bob, thank you for the...
Oh, Bob Schuster, thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Like, so much.
Yay, Bob. An engineer, ladies and gentlemen.
It's
Media sound.
I've been to quite a few film festivals now with this film, and just going to like Dallas and LA, and people can see the outpouring of love that was felt for this radio station. And even, you know, in Dallas, Texas, I mean, we got applause, people related to it. They wished they had lived on Long Island and been an LIR fan. That's how much love, and it's all because of you, really. So you all inspired me to do this, and I really thank everybody for all your support and and everything you've helped me do for the film. So this was made for you.
How did you find the fans? Like, how did you when you were making the movie? How did you reach out? I mean, I'm sure all of the DJs and Dennis, you guys knew people who you kept in touch. But how did you do that?
So I was inspired to do the film from Facebook, actually, because I was on Facebook 7 years ago one day, and I realized that there were so many LIR websites, fan pages for dedicated to LIR, to this radio station that didn't exist, and people were saying, oh, I miss LIR, and radio's not the same, and I wish they could bring it back, and they were putting YouTube videos of the songs, and I was like, oh my God, I loved that station. Wait a minute, whatever happened to that station? Because nobody knew. As a fan, like, we never knew. One minute it was on the air, then it was DRE, and they were kind of doing the same thing, but some of the people left, and everyone was confused. They really did a good job of keeping it low profile of what really happened with the FCC and all of that. And so after seeing Facebook and wanting to know what happened, I started to do research, and then as I started to make the movie, I reached out to these people on Facebook and said, hey, who wants to be a part of it? And then through trying to raise money, we did a few crowdfunding campaigns, and people donated money, and yeah, so it just came to be. It just kind of evolved. So,
what did you guys all think, DJs and everyone, when you heard that this was being put together? I mean, I'm sure you were excited, but were you nervous? Were you concerned about how it was going to be portrayed?
I think everybody was a little.
Oh, I didn't want to go back there at all. Jesus. You know what? For me, this has been a really positive experience, because I always felt that LIR was a failure because of what happened. And I also started to realize that the impact of the station was much bigger than I ever believed. And I'm very grateful to people like Seymour and such, because I went on and got very successful in the music industry. I worked at, in fact, some of his competitor labels and things like that. And I ended up, I ran into U2 again, spent some time with them, and they never let me feel anything but super special. I worked with Andrew Lloyd Webber, and one of the first things he said is, I want to know about this LIR. Everyone talks about it. So, I started realizing, and again, I had an office in England for a while when I was doing international A&R, and it was pleasantly shocking how much LIR was respected in the British music industry. And for me, I was, one of these kids that grew up on all the British bands of the first invasion. And so I've always been a British fan, in terms of the music scene there. And it's just, I have to admit, this has been a real eye-opener and kind of a happy ending to what was otherwise really a strange kind of adventure.
It's interesting that when the idea of the movie came up, I was thrilled that the idea was actually born, because in 30 days it'll be the actual 30th anniversary of LIR going off the air, which was December 17th, 1987. And the one thing I wanted to mention, because this just dawned on me, now that we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the hashtag with Twitter, to realize the power of what LIR was when social wasn't even social at that time. A good friend of mine, because I grew up in North Merrick, and there was a guy named Gerard Toohey who I was very close to, and he was actually in the Nautilus nuclear sub, which in those days was a big deal because you had to be interviewed by the FBI. I actually had to be interviewed by the FBI to be, on Gerard's behalf, and he was such an LIR nut that he brought all these cassettes and the radio concerts, and they'd be underwater for 3 months, and the whole sub was LIR fanatics. It was unbelievable. And when he came up and submerged, he said, I need more tapes. These guys are going crazy down, the captain on down, But I just want to thank Dennis and Ellen and Dennis for giving me the shot, because if he didn't give me the shot, I would not be holding this microphone right now in front of all of you. And it was, to me, the most passionate time of my career. And I couldn't, in a humble way, I just can't believe I lived through it, and it was a magical moment. And sometimes you just get that moment in life where it's at that time, at that place in Hempstead that just was so magical. It was like Disneyland, but it was music, and it was breaking music, And you know what? I will say this one last thing, because when you two came up to the Sirius XM studios, they weren't supposed to do it. They did it at the last minute. And I went in the green room and I had all 4 of them. And I started with Bono, ended with Bono, and each one of them remembered LIR. Each one of them was very thankful and grateful and down to earth for what we did for their career, playing Boy a year before Chris Blackwell even signed them to Island Records. And then it was the hug from Bono at the end that just gave me tears in my eyes, because I knew they really meant it.
You know, Dennis, of course, is very close to the film, and Max, but for us DJs who'd been being interviewed for 7 years, we had no idea, or at least I had no idea, what the final product was going to be like. But when, you know, Dennis called me and said that, you know, someone was interested in making a movie, it really made sense to me, because after LIR, I worked at DRE for 6 years. After DRE, I worked at Q104 for 5 years. And now I've been at BAB, believe it or not, for 17 years. And to this day, people, if they hear the name Donna, they're all, oh, from LIR? And it's particularly embarrassing when I'm on a BAB appearance and my bosses are all there. But they get it. They're really cool there. But to this day, people come up to me and say, oh, I was at Malibu and you shone the spotlight on me and you made fun of me while I was dancing. It was the greatest night of my life. So I, maybe more so than you, Dennis, had a real appreciation for how much the station meant to our fans.
Right. Yeah, agreed. I mean, when Ellen came up with the idea, I mean, I thought to myself, there really hasn't ever, at least in recent memory, been a movie about a contemporary radio station that I can think of. And it's like, yeah, wow, of course. But first thing I said to Ellen is, this is great for us, but is anyone outside of Long Island going to really care? You know, but she insisted, no, that this is a bigger story here. And that's what really, I think, surprised surprised many of us, is there is a bigger story. It wasn't just about Malibu and 007 and all those places, or you know, the radio station. It was a big story, like Larry says. It went far and wide. And when Ellen takes the film to film festivals in Dallas, she told me about that this evening. I said, how'd that go? I mean, unbelievable. There's a big story here. It's not just the DJs, you know, thank you, you love us, but it's about the scene, and it's about the change in music and the culture and what it meant to people of a certain age in the 80s. The 80s was I think one of the most important turning points in musical history, and I think that that has a lot of influence on the listeners, not just of this radio station, but all over the world.
I want to add one last thing. In the past 2 weeks, I got 5 emails from international film festivals that are interested in our film. We are still looking for international distribution, so we're really excited that we're going to be going internationally, and I think it's going to do great.
So unfortunately, we can only take like 1 or 2 more questions, because we have 250 people waiting in the lobby to come in. Do you ever listen to a whole tape through, like, you know, and relive like a day?
You know, I did actually, was a while ago now, but listening back after not having heard it for so long, I was like, wow, we really kicked ass. Yeah. The station sounded great.
You know, it's interesting too, when I think back when we were playing Prince, Erotic City, or you'd play Curtis Mayfield, Move On Up, right? All 10 minutes of it. And then I remember probably the greatest interview we ever had was someone that we didn't even expect, was Jim Henson. Jim Henson came up because he lived in Westchester and Labyrinth had come out with David Bowie in the lead. Yeah. And his youngest daughter of 6, Heather, said, Dad, if you're going to do an interview on Labyrinth, you got to go up to LIR. Yeah. So he shows up at the front door in the morning show. Remember this? Yeah, 90 minutes. He did Kermit, Cookie Monster, Animal. I mean, he signed Kermit the Frog to my son Ryan, and the funniest thing was that I said to Heather, so what's your favorite band? And she goes, XTC. And Jim goes, what the hell kind of radio station is this? I said, no, Jim. She said XTC, not ecstasy. But he was just one, and a year later, he had passed on. And I remember, and I found that cassette. I have the cassette, and the last thing I said to him, Jim, the Muppets will live on, and we'll be gone. But I have to thank you for everything that you've done with a sock from 1959, because that's how it started with him and his wife. And a year later, he had passed. But Jim Henson.
Now you tell me this, Larry? Thanks, Larry. Good story.
Never get the right.
It can be
I'm
in
a dead duck.
the companion DVD.
That'll be on the bonus track, right?
So unfortunately, we do have to wrap this up because, like I said, we do have another sold-out house waiting to come in.
Let him in. We got to put in a plug here for Eppy. So China Crisis, the full band this time. The full band, as opposed to 2 of 5, will be playing on, I don't have my glasses, December 9th? December 9th.
Great shows.
Great show. At the Lighthouse, they put out a new album a year ago called Autumn in the Neighborhood, which hasn't been released here in this country, but go ahead, Dennis.
I saw the new My Father's Place today. You don't even know that I went over. They took me over to see it. Congratulations. Once again, the famous Eppy from My Father's Place. All right, Caroline.
Thank you, everyone. Another big round of applause for everybody here associated with the film and the station.